always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessica, and I am here to share some of the top entertainment tea that you just need to know right now. Guys, welcome back. It is another rainy day here. So remember the episodes where I was talking about how gorgeous fall has been and the days have been amazing? Well, those days are long gone at this point. I feel like it has been raining pretty much every day for the past week, and it's just going to continue to rain the next few days. So I don't know. I have gone from wearing my sweatpants and sweatshirts literally every day of my life to then being like, oh, the sun is out. I want to feel like a human. So I would start doing my hair and my makeup and putting on jeans and real people clothes and feeling so much better about myself. But now this rain has me just back to sweatpants. Why do I want to put on jeans? Why do I want to do my makeup? It is just so gloomy out. I can't go outside. I can't go to pumpkin patches. There's obviously no hay rides. There's nothing going on. And it is just this reminder that winter is coming and we will be locked in our homes again. I'm sure with the luck that I'm having or we're all having, there's probably just going to be a blizzard and it's just going to be so awful. But with winter coming, my husband and I had a very funny exchange the other day. He loves Halloween. He loves this time of year. He loves watching his scary shows. I call him his spookies. So I'll be like, oh, okay, well, you enjoy watching your spookies. I'm going to go read a book or whatever. Anyway, so he absolutely lives for all of this. Whereas I, typically I live for Christmas. It is my favorite holiday. It is my favorite time of year. It's just so sparkly and glittery and bright. And I just love red and gold together. Just beautiful, beautiful. I love everything about it. So I was saying to him that, listen, I decorated this house for you real nice for Halloween and to make it feel spooky for you. But you best believe the day after Halloween, I am starting to watch A Christmas Inheritance. And he just looked at me and he's like, no, that's way too early. And I was like, no, it is the one thing that will bring me so much joy after such a terrible year. All I want is an extra month of watching A Christmas Inheritance. And we exchanged some words. It was very funny. And he thinks I'm joking, but you best believe the clock can strike midnight on Halloween evening and I will be watching A Christmas Inheritance on Netflix. And so for those of you who haven't seen it, I have talked about it before on this podcast, but just in case you missed it, A Christmas Inheritance on Netflix is probably the best Christmas movie that Netflix has to offer. And I will go out on a limb and say it's probably one of the best Christmas movies of all time. The fact that A Christmas Prince got all of these sequels and A Christmas Inheritance did not just destroys my soul every year when I find out that there is no sequel. There needs to be an update on what is going on in Snow Falls. I need it. I need it in my life. And so Netflix, if anybody at Netflix is listening, please figure out how to make the sequel to A Christmas Inheritance. I will come on as script supervisor or something. I will be a part of it. I want that. What a great Christmas gift. Anyway, so that is my little, that's really it. Nothing else is really going on in life. And yeah, just kind of doing the switch from a beautiful fall to a terrible fall, ending Halloween. We have elections coming up, and then we have Thanksgiving, my least favorite holiday of all time, and then Christmas, the best time of year. So anyway, guys, we do have a lot to discuss today. This episode, of course, I will be doing my Bachelorette recap. It's pretty long. A lot happened this episode. So much went down. There's so much to talk about, both what happened on the show and what's been going on off cameras and off the show. So I cannot wait to dive into that. But before we do, of course, we have celebrity news. We have to talk about what's going on in Hollywood. So I think it is time that we just dive right on in and get this show on the road, because you know what? I got a new comfy blanket I want to curl up in. So let's start with our first story. So let's start with one of the biggest stories and most trending stories that's been going on, and that is Kim Kardashian West has turned 40. And it's not so much that she turned 40, it's what she did to celebrate her 40th birthday. So she posted to Instagram a photo of her and her family with the caption that I'm going to read to you. It says, 40 and feeling so humbled and blessed. There is not a single day that I take for granted, especially during these times when we are all reminded of the things that truly matter. For my birthday this year, I couldn't think of a better way to spend it than with some of the people who have helped shaped me into the woman I am today. Before COVID, I didn't think any of us truly appreciated a simple luxury it was to be able to travel and be together with family and friends in a safe environment. After 2 weeks of multiple health screens and asking everyone to quarantine, I surprised my closest inner circle with a trip to a private island where we could pretend things were normal just for a brief moment in time. We danced, rode bikes, swam near whales, kayaked, watched a movie on the beach, and so much more. I realized that for most people, this is something that is so far out of reach right now. So in moments like these, I am humbly reminded of how privileged my life is. Hashtag this is 40. Now, people are really coming after Kim and her family, and they're really having a field day. Like, people are taking a portion of that and posting like a picture of them in the past, like hanging out with friends, and really mocking her. A lot of people are saying that this post and this trip was tone deaf, or listen, you could have gone on the trip, but don't post about it. I mean, literally, Kim like breathes the wrong way and people have something to say. It's absolutely ridiculous. I say good on her. Like, good for you. I'm very happy that you were able to travel. I totally would too if I had that money and those resources. Like, who are we all kidding? Absolutely would have done something like this. I can't believe that so many people like in her circle were able to quarantine for 2 weeks and go on this trip. Like, these people have so much money, but it's almost like they barely work and they barely do anything. And I'm sure I really oversimplified that, but it's just crazy to me. All this time, some of these celebrities look like they have, and I know like that's it, like it's what it looks like, but come on, like, this is incredible. I totally, if I was in her inner circle, I absolutely would have wanted to be on that trip, and I absolutely would have taken advantage of it. And they did everything right. They got tested multiple times. Like, she chartered an insanely, like, a huge plane, like what, a 777 or whatever. Like, good for her. God bless. I am happy for you. And everyone coming after Kim, this woman does so much good that why are you attacking her for taking this trip? I mean, what she's doing for prison reform, like she's actually using her platform for good, as opposed to a lot of other people who have a platform that doesn't even come close. Like, so many celebrities don't do what she does. She really like puts her money where her mouth is. Like all these other celebrities, a lot of celebrities will talk about how much they want change and they want to see change, and all you have to do is vote and then change is going to happen. And then you have Kim, who is like, wow, we really need change and there's like something wrong with the system. And rather than just like going onto her platform and saying to vote or saying this is an outrage and just all of like just all these speaking points, instead she's like, well, guess I have to go to law school. Good for her. And I don't know if anyone saw like the David Letterman interview that she did with the Netflix special. What's it called? My Next Guest Needs No Introduction. She's like on that, and she talks about how with the current administration, a lot of people told her like, don't step into the White House because your reputation's on the line. It'll totally tank if you even step foot in that White House or shake that man's hand. And she's like, it's my reputation versus someone's life. She's like, obviously I'm going to help make this person's life better. So I have so much respect for her. So if this woman wants to take a break from law school and help, like taking a break from helping the country, then go on vacation. I'm just jealous that I wasn't there. I'm just jealous that I haven't gone anywhere in a year. So that's all. That's it. Like, there's nothing more to that. I am just, like I said, I'm really surprised. I guess I shouldn't say surprised. I'm not really surprised all the hate that she gets, but we all just need something to complain about, and that she was just the one to get it this week. And then what she did, I thought was really clever, is after posting a bunch of pictures of her and her family having the time of their lives on an island, she then posts a few more pictures saying like, now that I've gotten your attention, don't forget to vote. Like, good for you, girl. Like, oh, I just love her so much, and I will defend her. So here we are. Anyway, the next story, a little bit of sad news. Chrissy Teigen penned what happened when she lost her child and when she had her miscarriage. And this is such a sad, sad story. As I've covered in the past, we know she was pregnant and she was so happy because getting pregnant is very difficult for her. And she had to go on bed rest, and she was very open about that. And while she was doing an Instagram story, she let it slip that it was a boy. Like, she opened up her pregnancy to us. So then when she went into the hospital, she took us along that journey as well. And then sadly, when she miscarried or lost her child, that she shared all of that with us as well. And she talks about, she penned it for Medium, and she talks about how when she got the epidural and the news of what had to happen next, she told her husband, John Legend, I want you to take pictures because I want to remember this. Like, we remember all of the good times. And she's like, I need these pictures. And John was uncomfortable, but he did it anyway. And then she shared that with us, and a lot of people came after her because we all have nothing better to do, I guess, saying that she shouldn't have shared it. And in this article that she pens as her like reintroduction into the world and into social media, she's like, I don't regret anything. So I don't really care if you liked it or not. It's just what I did. And it's what I needed to do. And she thanked all of her fans and anyone who reached out to her, and how a lot of messages through Instagram and Twitter were saying, oh, you're probably not going to read this, or you don't need to respond. And she's like, well, I read everything, and thank you for saying I didn't need to respond. And all of that love she got, like, of course, there was a hole in her heart from the loss of her son, but it's filled with so much love that she receives on a daily basis. And that moving on is very difficult, but she is finding a way to do it and saying that, you know, you're not alone if you're going through something like this or similar, you know. Very empathetic, very Chrissy Teigen. So I'm wishing her and her family nothing but the best. She is back on social media. She wanted to clear all of that up before just being like, boop, back and I'm cooking again. And yeah, I really appreciate her being open and vulnerable with everybody. And again, I wish her and her family nothing but like positive, good vibes moving forward. And this is something that will be part of her life forever. And it's just very sad. Everything about it is just absolutely heartbreaking. And on that super sad note, we are going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to be talking about Meghan Markle, and then we're going to just dive right on into the Bachelor recap segment because, like I said, there is so much to talk about. I mean, if you haven't watched the season, I mean, go online, it's 3 episodes. It's a wild ride, especially the last one. So you're not going to want to miss my recap segment. We will be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everybody. I have noticed as I am talking into this microphone that on days when it's super rainy, I feel like I have a much more quieter demeanor. I talk a little closer to the mic. I'm slower with my words. And then on sunny days, it's just da 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 da. Like, I'm here, I'm ready, let's talk. I can't even pretend. That's how gloomy it is outside right now. I can't even pretend. I'm just really leaning into this quiet. I feel like there should be some jazz music in the background. Just chill. But I'm sure by the time this episode airs, it's probably going to be a sunny day. And now my super relaxed voice will just be completely out of context. So anyway, I will try my best to be a little bit more upbeat, but we shall see. Let's just go on to our next story. We're talking about Meghan Markle as she wins delay in privacy trial until fall of 2021 on confidential grounds. So Meghan Markle has successfully bid to have her trial against the Mail on Sunday pushed back to fall of 2021. So speaking at a pretrial hearing at the High Court in London on Thursday, Judge Mr. Justice Warby agreed to postpone the trial, which was scheduled to start on January 11th until no sooner than October 15th of 2021. Warby added that his ruling was based on confidential grounds submitted by Meghan's legal team during a closed hearing on Thursday morning. Quote, "My conclusion is that the right decision in all the circumstances is to grant the application. That means that the trial date of January 11, 2021 will be vacated and the trial will be refixed for a new date in the autumn. Hearings in private are an exception. It was necessary to hear that part of the evidence in private as a way to protect privacy and the administration of justice." So Meghan is suing the Mail on Sunday's publishers, Associated Newspapers, for invasion of privacy, infringement of data protection rights, and copyright infringement for printing extracts of a, quote, private and confidential letter she had sent to her father, Thomas Markle, in August of 2018, 3 months after her wedding to Prince Harry. In a second application on Thursday, lawyers for the Duchess of Sussex sought to overturn a key aspect of Associated Newspapers' defense based on a September 29th ruling that aspects of the biography Finding Freedom, Harry and Meghan and the Making of a Modern Royal Family, could be used as evidence in the lawsuit. So that is a very interesting twist, since all of the book is like pieced together quotes from like Meghan, or like what a friend of a friend said, or they're taking like a quote out of context that was given in an interview that was already published. In this instance, Justice Warby found in favor of Associated Newspapers on the grounds that the information in the biography was relevant to the proceedings. If there is a trial, she, which is Meghan Markle, will have the benefit of the evidence of one of the authors at least. She will also be able to give evidence herself. On Thursday, Meghan's legal team also applied for the whole case to be decided by a judge rather than going a full trial, a legal proceeding known as a summary of judgment in the UK. This is largely to prevent Meghan from having to go up against her own father in a London courtroom. Like, can you imagine that she like wrote this letter to her dad? And you can read about it in the book. She writes this letter to her dad, basically like pleading her case with everything and like wanting nothing but the best for him. And he decided to go and use that to make money for himself, be like, this is something my daughter. It was just like a really sad story. And like, I hate it when families, especially like children and parents, get into arguments. And this is an argument to an extreme. It's really sad. And something like this, like, how do you even repair the relationship after this? It's so, so heartbreaking. So I'm wishing nothing but the best for Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, moving forward. And hopefully this is something that will be settled before October. And if not October, it seems really far away. So let's just keep going with that. So let's I'm not really including this as part of the Bachelor recap section, but it is like Bachelor news that I kind of want to address. So Us Weekly, they released an article based off of an interview with the Viall Files, where ABC executive Robert Mills got candid about the unprecedented season 16 of The Bachelorette, revealing the moment he knew that Tayshia Adams was going to have to start handing out roses for Claire Crawley, right? So he's on the Viall Files, which is hosted by Bachelor alum Nick Viall, and he basically says that once she decided that she wasn't giving out a group date rose, which I'll talk about later, that's when they started making calls for Tayshia to come on. And I kind of have a problem with that narrative because I really don't think it's true. Reality Steve pointed out that Tayshia had already been quarantined for like 9 days. So Tayshia was there the entire time that they were filming. And I think everyone knew that this switch up was going to happen. It was just how they were going to do it. I think they were trying to figure out on the fly. So I really think it's weird that Robert Mills is making it sound like this was such a last minute decision, where it was something they wanted to do the whole time. There was another podcast that Nick was actually on that I was listening to, and he said that he didn't want to reveal his sources, but during Colton's season, they were thinking about doing a switch up as well. So something like this is like a switch up is something that the Bachelor and Bachelorette, like the franchise, has clearly have been thinking about doing for a while to kind of shake it up. So if you were, first off, I want to know who it was that they were going to replace Colton with, because Colton is trash and I would have loved to seen literally anybody else be a Bachelor except for him. So I would love to know who they had on standby for Colton season. And then, as I think with the whole pandemic and the quarantine, it was a wonderful opportunity. I think the producers and the network saw that this was going to be a great opportunity to do a switch up. And I think they knew that Claire was such a strong person, exactly as she's being portrayed, that they could probably manipulate her to either like willingly leave or, fall in love. Like, they knew what they were getting with Claire going into it. She's been part of this franchise for years. They know exactly who she is. And with a lot of people wanting Tayshia, like, have someone like her come in and save the day. It's really, really interesting that the producers are even trying to push this like whole last minute narrative. I don't understand why. I don't get it. Don't get it at all. Another like Bachelorette headline that I have seen, especially with Us Weekly, is that Claire's friend Michelle Money, what season was Michelle on? oh gosh, I forget. I'll have to do like a Google search on that. But she reveals that Claire Crawley is struggling with Bachelorette criticism. And that is absolutely heartbreaking because I don't think Claire deserves it. And I'm going to definitely dig much deeper into that in the Bachelorette recap segment, which will be next. It's a very unpopular opinion. If you go online, Claire is getting so much hate and I don't understand. So Michelle Money told Us Weekly, quote, "When I spoke to Claire the other day, she was really struggling, having a hard time. But this is what's amazing about Claire. She's like, all these people are giving me hate. I just want to help them heal. I want to help them. There's been some hate and there's been some negativity, but Claire wants to show up and help lift everybody up." I think that's a very positive spin on it. Claire, she doesn't seem to come off as very fragile. Everything that she has been through in her life really made her into the woman that she is today. Like, she's 40 years old. Like, she's doing just fine. She doesn't need all of these haters, but of course they're going to get to you. But there's definitely something going wrong with all of the hate that she has been receiving. I don't understand, and I never will understand. And finally, I think this is super fun. I absolutely love this story. It's really sweet. So Harry Styles leaves a sweet note for a fan after his car breaks down outside of her home. I mean, can you imagine? So on Tuesday of this week, a fan by the name of Theodora shared that Styles had left a sweet note for her after his car broke down and the singer hung out at her house while it was being prepared, but she was not home. According to Theodora, who shared the documentation of a once-in-a-lifetime encounter with the former One Direction member on social media, Harry Styles had car troubles outside of her home while she was away. Her dad's friend let the artist into the house as they fixed his car. Like, how crazy. So he decided to write her a note, and the note said, "Theodora, my car broke down on your street and your dad's friend kindly let me wait at your house with a cup of tea. I'm devastated that we missed each other. Looking forward to meeting soon. Treat people with kindness. All my love, Harry. P.S. I fed the fish." How cute. So then he also shared a picture of him sprinkling fish food into the tank of the fish tank at her home. And oh my gosh, he also left another note that read, "Tell your dad to get in touch and I'll see you at a show." I die. I never was a fan of One Direction. I think they came out a little too late for me. I was definitely prime age for NSYNC, but One Direction was a little bit too late, so I wasn't really up to date with the boys and now men. Well, with Harry Styles, I understood a lot of people were really into him. I know a friend of mine was on an airplane with him and was super excited that he was on the same flight as Harry Styles at one point. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute. I respect it. And then one night, my husband and I watched Harry Styles host SNL, and my opinion on Harry Styles absolutely changed. He is so hysterical. He's so cute. He seems so nice. And now I am jealous. Me, at 34 years old, I am so jealous that Harry Styles was not in my house while I was not home, and I don't know, fed the puppies. So sweet. He seems like such a nice, cool guy. And then even saying get in touch with me and I will meet you. It's not this ha you weren't home. This girl, she wasn't home and she still gets to meet him. I think that's such a sweet gesture. It really shows the type of guy that he is, and I am here for it. I am a fan. Absolutely, I am a fan. Mostly for his comedy, but his singing is really good too. Anyway, guys, we are going to take another very quick, very short break. When we come back, I am recapping this week's episode of The Bachelorette. I have thoughts, and by the looks of it, it seems like I am in the minority with what I'm thinking, so you're not going to want to miss this. We will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, guys, I am so excited. You probably cannot tell by the tone of my voice, but we're just going to continue to blame that on the rain. But I am so excited to discuss this week's episode of The Bachelorette. There is so much to unpack. A lot happened. It was a very strange and bizarre, jarring and uncomfortable episode. And we really see everything start to unwind. As a longtime fan, I kind of love all of everything that's happening, not so much what it's doing personally to Claire, but just the nature of the format of the show. I'm really, really liking because it is so different and it is something we genuinely have never seen before. And as Chris Harrison says, it is the most dramatic season. So I'm so happy that it is finally living up to Chris Harrison's infamous words. So let's just start from the beginning. We pick up from the cocktail party for the second rose ceremony, and Yosef is just like a trash human. I'm just going to say it. He's absolutely trash. He's a dangerous human, and I do not like him. And the fact that he has any followers on Instagram makes me sick to my stomach, but whatever. That's just this podcaster's opinion. So he is talking with the guys about how much he thinks Claire is immature, and the first red flag was when she was upset that no one pulled her aside, and then the second was the strip dodgeball date that he wasn't even a part of, and he thinks that the dodgeball date was classless and unacceptable, and he is really psyching himself up in front of the other guys, and it's almost like as if he hasn't yelled at a woman in a long time, and he just like was like, oh, I need to let this out because he has zero respect. So he pulls her aside and he's like, listen, I want to talk to you. I want to get something off of my chest. And she's very sweet about it. She's like, yes, of course, please. Like, I'm all ears. I would love to hear. And he goes on about how like, I was really uncomfortable. I didn't like the date. And she's like, of course. She's like, that's why you weren't on it. And he's like, every hour that I'm here is an hour that I'm not with my daughter. And she is like, no, of course, like my mother's dying. And he gets this like weird, like grin laugh thing. Like, I'm speaking. And he like cuts her off. Like, how dare she try to like relate to what he is going through? And he's like, I need to finish speaking. Like, you can't interrupt me. And she's listening. And then he just like finally explodes. And he's like, calls her classless and how he expected more from like the oldest bachelor ever. And he's like ashamed to be associated with her and really drags her. And she just like, she's letting him dig his own grave. Like, she's like, say what you need to say. Like, just allowing him to go off. And I guess that just like angers him more. He just starts snowballing and just gets louder and more aggressive. And finally, like, she like just leaves the situation. She's hysterical. Like, of course, like anybody would be in a situation like that. And he's like, oh, I expected more from the oldest bachelor ever. Like, oh, okay, so she didn't like you, so you're gonna resort to like her age. It's almost like when a guy's hitting on you, right? Like, girls, you can relate. I'm sure, and I can only speak from my own experience, but it's like when a guy is like hitting on you and you don't show any interest back, they're like, oh, whatever, you're ugly. Like, oh, okay, I'm cute. Like, fine, bye. And anyways, she's like, the only reason I'm 39 and single and standing here is because I didn't settle for men like that. Like, queen. I loved that moment. She really hit the nail on the head with that. She was perfect. Like, that's what, and then Dale comes in to the rescue, of course. And I think that was definitely producer driven. You know, the white knight coming in to rescue the damsel in distress is kind of the narrative that they pushed in that moment, which, you know, it's fine. I guess for the show, it kind of works, I guess. But she handled the situation perfectly on her own by letting Yosef talk. And he's so concerned about, and this is why he's trash, okay? So he's so concerned about his daughter, and like, I need to set a great example for my daughter. Like, I understand the sentiment of you don't want to strip down naked on national television. Like, you have a daughter and you want to protect her from that. And you don't want her to ever go online and go on YouTube and see her dad naked on TV playing dodgeball. Like, I get that. I absolutely do. But now she's going to go on and see how you talk to women. And that is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And then while this was all happening, he was posting, I don't follow him. Like, I would never give him the follow. And I only want to check up on him this one time because I don't want him to get the views, but I just had to see what he was doing. So I went onto Instagram and I looked him up, and he's like having dinner with his friends, and some of them were women, of course, and he's like the people from day one, and he's like smirking as he's watching his horrid, disgusting behavior unfold on screen. And you know what, like, if you want to be friends with like a jerk like that, then like that's on you, and that is a reflection of you as a person. Like, you are who you hang around with. Like, I am a full believer of that. So sorry, like, he's awful. He's a dangerous type of person. And I'm so happy that he is gone, and I hope that he never comes back. He's terrible. He is so, so terrible. So anything that he says, I like the whole thing, like I said, the whole thing with the dodgeball thing. I don't care anymore that you think it's terrible, because your opinions are no longer valid based off of how you reacted to all of it. Like, if you're so concerned about class, you would not have reacted the way that you did and spoken to another person the way that you did. You're terrible. And there, I said it. So let's move on from the trash that is Yosef. And so we get to the group date, and she invites, like, what they're saying is like her favorite guys. And in the beginning of the day, Deanna comes in to talk to Claire, and I was super excited. As we all know, Deanna is my favorite Bachelorette. Like, she's one of my favorites. I absolutely love her. She's so funny. She's so sweet. And I understand a lot of people who were watching had no idea who she was, and they didn't recognize her because she was the Bachelorette way before like HDTV, I think. And she also never went to Paradise because Paradise wasn't a thing. So no one really recognized her, and that's fine. Go educate yourself. Go watch it, because she's delightful. She's such a delightful Bachelorette. Anyway, so her and Claire are friends, and she comes in and she's talking to Claire. And what's interesting is the day date was canceled. So what I'm wondering is, they made it look like it was canceled because of the conversation between Claire and Deanna. But like, why would Deanna quarantine and then go on the show just to have a conversation with Claire? So I'm wondering if maybe there was a group date where Deanna was part of it, maybe as a judge. But then I'm wondering, well, what happened? Was there a set malfunction? Was it way too hot? Was it something that was supposed to be done outdoors? And was it the heat index just way too high and unsafe to go out and film? So I really think there's much more to the day date being canceled than what we saw. And the fact that they didn't give us a reason makes me think there was a production reason that there was no date. And it was not because Claire just wanted to cancel it. I really think there was a production reason why they had to cancel it. What that reason was, I have no idea. I can only speculate. So they go, we're going to have a super long cocktail hour. Okay, that's fine. So nighttime happens and the cocktail hour started after dark. So it is summertime in California in Palm Springs. So it was probably super late, probably 9 o'clock or later, maybe even 10. And we also start to get a sense of time with this date. So Dale decides to give a speech when Claire comes in and they all sit down about, how he wants to respect everybody, but wants to pull Claire aside, make her feel special. And then he does this weird group hug moment and then he steals Claire. Now, this is where we start to kind of get a sense of time. So the men are saying that Dale has been gone with Claire for about 40 minutes to an hour. It depends on who you talk to. So let's just assume an hour. And then they say, we don't have much time left. So the cocktail hour could not have been extended or it couldn't have been that long, right? So I thought that was really interesting that we finally got a sense of time in a show like this. We never really do know what time it is, except for really night one. We know that the cocktail party night one goes all night because the sun is rising by the time we get to the rose ceremony. But other than that, it's like this universe where time just simply does not exist. So back to Dale being with Claire for 40 minutes to an hour. They go back to her room. What did she say? Casa del Claire or whatever, Chateau Claire, something like that. And they just start making out on the bed. And these are two people that are clearly really into each other. It's super, super obvious and good for them. They like each other. And that's what happens, especially in the beginning of a relationship too, right? Where you have this huge infatuation with one another, and you can't get enough and you're just kissing and touching. Good for them. That's what they're doing. And then who is it? Someone comes to the door. I think was it Easy comes to the door and, they have to leave. Oh, there's the knock at the door. And Dale kind of sneaks out. He starts sitting down and he gets up and he sneaks out and he's not facing the camera directly or off to the side. He's hiding himself. So he had to calm down and cool off after that make-out session, if you know what I mean. And here's the thing, a lot of the guys are saying during this entire time, you could tell when she's with these men that she's not fully there. She's flushed. She's thinking about Dale. Oh, and then Dale goes and interrupts again and steals her again. And then the guys confront him and they're just listen, if you want more time with her, just tell us you want more time. Don't make up this excuse that you went to the bathroom and you, quote, got lost and then ended up at Claire's place. Calm down. Just tell us the truth. So now we're starting to see that Dale is a little bit of a manipulator. He's not as open and honest as we all think that he is as viewers. So I thought that was really interesting. But now the guys, they're complaining about Dale, which I get. But at the same time, just enjoy your time not being stuck in a small apartment during a pandemic. What are you going to do? Go home and just especially someone like Bennett, even though Bennett wasn't on this date. I'm just using him as an example because I know he's from New York. You're going to go home and sit in a small apartment and not be able to do anything. You're on this all expenses paid free trip. Just have a good time. Enjoy this free vacation. No pressure. It's chill. What else are you going to do back at home? So that was the first group date. And then she obviously gives the rose to Dale, but we all saw that coming. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the next part of the Bachelorette recap. I'm not really going to have a list this episode because there's so much to unpack with this episode. I don't want to leave everything. I don't want to leave anything out. I really want to dive into everything that happened. And so, enjoy this break. We will be right back. And we're going to talk about Zach's one-on-one and the roast portion of the date.
Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is the podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off, and that is the one-on-one date with Zach. So they go on a spa date to kind of unwind, and Claire mentions that Zach always tends to bring positive energy, but now that energy has shifted from positive to nervous. And, you know, she kind of wishes Dale were there. I mean, she reveals that in her ITM. So she wants Dale to be there. We know she's not really like into it. And it is a little awkward. She gives him like the avocado like face mask, which is just pure avocado. Like it's not even mashed up. Like she's taking it from the skin of the fruit. Like it's not even mashed in a bowl. Putting it on his face, like trying to kind of cut the tension. And then it moves to like a little mini pool party. And she's on a float and he's in the water. And you can tell she's really trying to kind of be present and in the moment and give him the benefit of the doubt. And other than that, nothing really happens until she says goodbye before the dinner portion of their date. And there's always a break in between like the date portion and the dinner where they get ready. So she's going to say goodbye. So she goes, and this is where I don't understand people. I really don't understand, because the internet was really divided. And by divided, I mean like really hated on Claire for this. And that's what I don't understand. And that's what we're going to talk about. So she goes in to kiss Zach, and it looks like she goes in about 99% of the way, and he doesn't really move. And I think she took that as that he didn't want the kiss, or he was like pulling away. So, which isn't anything strange. Like things like that, those awkward moments, they tend to happen, especially with the first kiss. But what happens after is what Claire seems to really have an issue with, and which I think a lot of people, like, they're missing that point. Like, so many people are focused on the quote that she says. She goes, he pulled away. And then all these people go on like Twitter and online and TikTok, and they're showing this replay tape, essentially, kind of like a football game. And that's not the issue. The issue isn't her like going in for this kiss. The issue is how he grabbed her like upper chest and her neck and her waist and pulls her towards her. And you can see that she's clearly pulling away. Like her body becomes stiff. It's very, very clear. No one's showing that part of the tape. And he does this 2 more times after following her, and it's very jarring. It's very, very uncomfortable to watch. Now, I don't believe that Zach is trying to harm her in any way. I do believe that he was caught up in his own type of anxiety, and rather than using his words to say, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that you wanted to kiss me. Here, I'm ready. Like, I'm here now, I'm present. Like, instead of using his words, he used his hands, and that is what made her uncomfortable. And that is never okay. Like, don't touch her. She clearly didn't like it. And Claire has been very open about how she has experienced physical and verbal violence in the past. And this obviously put her in a triggered state. Like, she says it. Like, there is this scene where she's back in her room and she's sitting on the floor holding her dogs, like crying. She's clearly upset. And people are really coming at Zach's defense and saying that Claire owes him this explanation, and that she shouldn't have sent Chris Harrison out at dinner, and that she should have like been a woman. Like, if she's really the strong woman that she is, then she should have gone and told Zach herself. And I completely disagree with that. And I think that is very unfair to put onto her. And I really don't understand. Like, this woman has clearly said that she's been abused and that she was triggered, and now you're expecting her to just be like, oh, okay. And a lot of people had an issue with the fact that she kept saying that she was fine. She was fine after he kept asking what was wrong. And again, I don't fault Claire. Like, I don't fault her at all. I understand that he was confused and he needed an answer, but in situations like me, especially, like, I'll say sometimes I feel that I am a strong person and I'll say what's on my mind a lot. But if I'm uncomfortable, especially when I'm uncomfortable, I will say I am fine. And I'll do that just to get out of a situation in order to gather my thoughts and to process whatever it is that I'm thinking, because I don't want to lash out. I don't want to say something I don't mean. I want to make sure that what I'm thinking is like well thought out, and I understand my emotions. So I understand why she said it, and I don't fault her for it. It doesn't make her less of a woman. It doesn't make her not strong. It doesn't make her a fraud. It makes her human. Like if she's triggered, she's triggered. She doesn't owe anybody any sort of apology. And who knows, maybe after the show ended, she reached out to him privately and said, hey, listen, I understand hindsight, like that it was simply just miscommunication, but I felt very uncomfortable. Like, but at that time she wasn't comfortable doing it, and that's fine. She doesn't owe anybody anything. And so I just wanted to say that because I just felt so bad for Claire, just like reading all of this hate that she was getting over this situation. And everyone was harping on the fact that she went in to go kiss him and he didn't move. And she's there just like, oh, well, she said he backed away. Like that wasn't the issue. The issue was everything that happened right after that. And everyone is ignoring it. And like I said, I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think he has like ill will in his heart at all. And I think he was just like so caught off guard and so caught up in his anxiety and confusion. But if by putting your hands on someone, that person then becomes uncomfortable, then that's okay. Like she's allowed to feel that way. Anyway, so next up, we have the next group date, which is a roast, which is very exciting. They got comedian Margaret Cho to come, so she quarantined to be part of this date. And the idea is that they're all going to roast each other. And since they can't go out and have a live audience like we have seen in the past, where they do something on stage and the men or the women have to prepare for, instead, they bring in the men who are not on the date. So Dale is now on this date, and the men really take advantage of this, and they keep doing digs, and that is ultimately their downfall. So the men who are on the date all had to prepare roast speeches, and they all do a decent job of going after each other, but what we saw mostly was them going after Dale. Like, let's just take Bennett, our Harvard grad, for example. Like, he really got the guys laughing. So everything that he was saying was more for the men and less for Claire, because the men got it. They were laughing. They understood all of the digs that were given to Dale. But Claire and Margaret were both so uncomfortable with all of the Dale hate. I will say, like, when Bennett said that Dale looked like a boa constrictor from the Jungle Book, like, I giggled. Like, that was actually really funny. And very accurate. I definitely see it. And I thought that was clever. So the night portion of the date, like, Claire obviously is not happy that everyone just hated on Dale. So, like, she really likes Dale and she feels protective of Dale, and they just, no. So this is where we really start to get an insight in how she's talking behind the scenes about him. So she is pissed. She's so pissed. And she says, like, they made me feel like shit about the one thing I'm excited about. I don't care if they have a good time. I want to get information out of them, and I want to go home and go to sleep. I mean, the last part, like, I always want to go home and go to sleep. Like, I get that. So every single guy that she pulls aside, she asks about Dale. And like, oh, what did you mean when you said blank? You had some pretty sharp words about Dale. What's the story there? When did he say he was best suited for me, or that he was the front runner? And the guys are trying to, like, change the subject. And even Bennett's like, I gave Dale enough airtime. Like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want to talk about us. And she's like, okay, but like the context. Can you please tell me about the context? And so she's pissed at them. They're all starting to get annoyed at her because everyone's coming back from their one-on-one time with Claire, and they're just like, oh, did she just ask you about Dale? Yeah, all she did was ask about Dale. Did she ask you about Dale? Yeah, all she did was ask about Dale. And, you know, everyone is really starting to reach their breaking point, and we're really seeing everything fall apart at this moment. And at the end, this is what I was talking about with the Nick Viall and Robert Mills story that just came out, is she doesn't give a rose to anybody. She says that she didn't get what she needed from any of the men. And she's just like, peace out, I'm going to go to bed. And she just leaves, like, doesn't give anyone a hug, doesn't look anyone in the eye. She just storms out. And you see her, like, walking away with her producer and her mic still on. And she goes, you dished on my fiance so hard, and I'm giving you a rose. Like, this woman is checked out. Like, how dare these men insult like her connection with like her favorite person, and she referred to Dale as her fiance. Like, she is done the show. So this was the last episode that we had Claire from beginning to end. So we start seeing the previews for next week when everything changes. We see the tears. We see Chris Harrison again with his quote, "Congratulations, you've just blown up the Bachelorette." And, you know, she's crying, and the producers, and she's like, "I'm sorry if I'm wasting everybody's time." And then it stops and the music changes to James Bond. And like a true Bond girl, Tayshia emerges from the pool, and she looks so amazing. She's so beautiful. She's so hot, like soaking wet, like pulls her hair back. Like, she looks fire. She looks so good. The production is really leaning into the surprise element, like, surprise Tayshia, but we all knew that this was coming. We were like, even in all the previews leading up to like this week, they never acknowledged Tayshia, and here she is, like smoking hot, here to save the day. I'm really excited. A lot of people did not like her introduction being this way, that a lot of people are introduced by coming out of a limo. But I just thought that this was just so much more powerful and so much more fun, especially with how heavy the past few weeks have been and just like so over it people are. Like, I thought this really was like a fun way to like get everyone excited for Tayshia. So I'm not mad about it. I understand why some people are, but I'm not. I think it's really fun. She looks amazing. I think she liked it. And if Tayshia liked it, and if Tayshia's down for it, then to me, that's all that really matters. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what happens. So next week's episode does not air on Tuesday due to the election, and so it will air on Thursday. So hopefully I can get a recap in for you next week. I'm really excited to see all of this go down. Like I said, I am so okay with this season of The Bachelorette. A lot of people are calling Claire like the worst Bachelorette of all time. They're really bullying her on social media, and I think it's completely uncalled for. I don't think she has done anything wrong. The only thing that she's done, quote, wrong is she's not sticking to the format of the show and she's not playing along. But I don't think that's not bad. She's not being mean. She's not a mean person. There are other bachelors that are so much worse and so problematic. So I don't understand why she is getting all of the hate that she is receiving. And like I did last week, I'm just here. I will defend her until I am blue in the face. A lot of people saying that she is the worst Bachelorette of all time. Like, I went onto your accounts. I looked at you. You're very, very young. I don't think you have the whole library to compare her to. So sit down and stop being an online bully. It is not a good look. So it's very uncalled for. And honestly, I'm a little ashamed to be part of Bachelor Nation with all of this hate and negativity. So I would love that to end if we could just be a little nicer to Claire. Like, we could objectively be like, I don't agree with her decision on favoring Dale. Like, that is fine. But to go after her and say she's the worst Bachelorette of all time, like, you don't know. You don't know. Like, you're way too young. This is probably the second season that you've ever watched. Some of you, I'm not speaking for all of you, but some of you, I guarantee this is only the second season, or maybe even the first that you've ever seen, and you're only jumping onto the bandwagon because it's cool and because you want to be part of the conversation. You're not bringing in good dialogue. So that's all I have to say about that. I will get off of my Bachelorette franchise soapbox for now. Until next week, I'm very excited to see how everything is going to play out. And yeah, guys, that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, I'm Jessica, and thank you for listening to the GSMC Entertainment Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would love to ask you to please subscribe to the show and write a beautiful, glowing review. You know, that really helps us out. Even if you agree with my Bachelorette analysis or not, like, I would love to hear what you have to say. What is your opinion? Also, hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GSMC_entertainment. I'd really appreciate it. Love to hear your thoughts as always, guys. Thank Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, morning, afternoon, whenever it is that you're listening to this podcast. I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.